Hello and welcome back to a very quiet Dishonored video. This is just going to be a pointing episode. This is, if you don't know, where I just read off the books. So if you like listening to all the lore, you can stick around. It's going to be like an audio diary format where I read them off to you. But apart from that, it's going to be nothing else. It's not going to progress the plot forward. So if you don't want to listen to this stuff, you can skip ahead to the next episode and I'll see you then. But if you're not, you're a pointer, and we're going to be reading off some books. Now, I've got a list of a few, not quite a few to be fair, but we're going to go through it now. It's from the last stages of the High Overseer, not High Overseer, that's the beginning, the Lord Regent mission in Dunwall Tower, and from the Flooded District, which we've just done, so I'm going to be reading them off just now. While I'm in the Flooded District, there is no music, like I said. I don't know why. We're in the part of the mission where there's loads of tall boys walking around, so I assume it's atmospheric. But anyway, we're going to be beginning with, the initials I've written down are TEK. There isn't one called TEK, so I'm assuming it's the Empress Coldwin. But it's Empress Jasmine Coldwin. So we'll just start here. Excerpt from a book on the late Empress. Many of those who lived through her reign will weep until the ends of their lives over the pale beauty with the piercing eyes, and the foul end she met at the hands of her own twisted servant and protector. In her father's day, the Coldwins were thrust into the limelight despite their distance to the throne. When the former dynasty provided no heirs, a prosperous age followed the emperor, but his daughter would have different luck. During her short life, political intrigue and minor conflicts traded cracks in the empire, undermining unity across the Isles. The rat plague, however, was a terror far which neither Empress Coldwin nor any other living being was prepared. Cool. That's good. We've got some music when we click on the books. That's perfect. Right, so next one is the High Overseer. Was this from the High Overseer? No, it's not. Excerpt from a series of Overseer roles and rituals. Over the centuries, the Abbey of the Everyman has held its place as the dormant religion across the Isle. Not only do its adherents call it the only meaningful faith, but aside from a few tolerant variants, they castigate the following of other religions as they castrate the followers of other religions as heretics, actively resulting in harm rather than harmony. A key component to the Abbey's health is the High Overseer. Venerated by all other overseers, the women of the Ocular Order, and the congregations from each town and city across the Empire, the High Overseer is called upon to interpret the seven strictures and to initiate important ceremonies, just as the Fugue Feast at the end of each calendar year. Above all, the High Overseer must embody the structures, serving as a living example of their perfection. Upon the death of the acting High Overseer, it falls upon a council made up of elder overseers to call for the Feast of Painted Kettles, the first step in the arduous process of choosing a new leader for the Abbey. The Whalers. Excerpt from a journalist's report on organised criminal activity. One gentleman at advanced age swore that his brother had been taken by the Whalers, a notorious gang associated with a man called Dowd. According to Peter Mainsford, his brother Randall Rudolph was proud of working with the Royal Spymaster's Responsible Citizen Group, feeling no shame in reporting on what he perceived as shady dealings by his rivals at the fish markets. But this might have been the source of his trouble. On the 6th day evening, on the 8th month of Hearths, Randolph came storming into Pietro's home, white-faced and panic-stricken, claiming to have been chased by a group of ruffians wearing the leather suits and vapour masks worn by the men working in the whale oil factories. Peter gave him supper and drink, sending him on his way later in that night, after which Randolph was never seen again. Ooh. Royal Spymaster will continue reading these flooded texts. Because Flooded District texts. Yeah. Excerpt from a historical record of government positions and ranks. It is said that the office of the Royal Spymaster has existed for as long as there has been emperors and empresses. However, in the earliest days of the Empire, the position existed in secrecy. Only after the Mori insurrection was the position publicly acknowledged, due to the tremendous role that the acting Spymaster played in quelling that rebellion. Originally, members of the military or officers of the City Watch were advocated from the role chosen by the Admiralty in recent years, but outgoing Spymaster Spymaster had made recommendations on his replacement from the small centre of espionage agents serving him. In this way, continuity is preserved, since many of the covert projects undertaken by the government are not committed to writing, only communication in whispers behind secure doors. This leads to the most common critique of the office of the Royal Spymaster, that actions are taken and deeds committed that even the Empress or Emperor is not aware of. This lack of oversight is accountably in a commonly disputed topic during parliamentary sessions. Sorry, I got hiccups. But those who hold the position of Royal Spymaster... But those who hold the position of Royal Spymaster insist in order to function the role must exist outside existing bureaucracy or law. Okay, next one is TSBD. Have I not read the Tower of Dunwall? Yeah, no, that's sorry. Sorry, knocked the mic down. Yeah, sorry, the Tower of Dunwall. Excerpt on hysterical examination of Dunwall Tower. For over a century, Dunwall Tower has been the capital of the Isles of Crystal and the seat of power across all the Isles of the Empire. Rulers have come and gone, each adding something to the structure: gardens, observatories, new walls, pools, and specialised interior chambers to suit their needs and whims. Dunwall Tower has withstood numerous wars, several large-scale fires, and the collapse and rebuilding of the northern wing. When Tivia and Sarkonis joining the Empire first, it was Morley that resisted longest. Some of the conflicts that arose also necessitated the further refortification of the tower. Repeated assassination attempts near the end of the conflict with Morley resulted in the creation of the Royal Protector position, with each ruler choosing his or her own Royal Protector after careful consideration. And that's the sewers beneath Dunwall, which is where we are now. Where we were. Maybe we'll go back into, I can't remember. Excerpt from a light historical overview of the architecture of Dunwall. Across the generations, the aqueducts and tunnels beneath the city of Dunwall have served a variety of purposes. In the earliest days of the city's history, several primary canals were used to channel river overflow during times of flooding, and for a time it was fashionable for wealthy aristocrats to commission underground water passages, giving them access to their estates from the Wrenhaven River and its minor tributaries. Over the years, these tunnels began to interconnect, sometimes by design and sometimes by accident. The history of the tunnel system is rich, as every school child is taught rebels used the sewers extinguishedly during the Mori insurrection, as discussed in popular bar songs. Lovers often find privacy in some of their cleaner entry points, with fresh air brought in from the winds from the river itself. On a darker note, in addition to seeing traffic from gangs and smugglers, it is rumoured that the current Royal Spymaster himself, Hiram Burrows, has a network of informants who know the twists and turns of the sewer system by heart. Until recent times, the older tunnels suffered from repeated collapse, creating sinkholes that occasionally consumed entire street corners. The current system rarely suffers from such calamities, since the sewers were reinforced and expanded by the City Planning Department during the rule of Emperor Aethorn Coldwin I. Cool. So I keep banging the bloody mic. TGWH. Bone Charms, have I read that one? TGWH. Have we read all this stuff then? Donovan's Journal. Have we read these? I think we've read these ones, haven't we? Have we read Bone Charms? I don't want to cut away, but I might have to cut away just to figure out if I've read some of these. Yeah, I'll be back in a second. Stuff it, we'll just read them anyway. Excerpt from a book on sailing traditions and scrimshaw. Bone charms are sailors' blessing, they say. The carving itself is a practice from long back, passed from father to son, old man to suit to greenhorn still getting his sea legs beneath him. In the old times, men cut into the tusks of ice seals and into the arm-long fangs of bears that roamed the isles north of Tivia. Once the rail trade began, the practitioners went to engraving the bones of those great beasts, rendering charms that sing in the night and grant some small boon to the man's vigour or defence against pregnancy. Read that one, I know that one. Donovan's journal. Who's Donovan? Excerpt from a worn journal. Everyone was looking for someone to blame for what happened. As the waters rose day by day, and one by one, the business owners had to give up their shapes to ankle-high muck, and river crusts started growing as far back as Thresh Street. Truth is, it wasn't some plot to ripe the overprotectious Rudshaw of Dunwall's maps. It was laziness and stupidity. The barrels keeping the river rising waters out hadn't been maintained, and at least the last decade. And once one leak started, the whole thing gave out. City was so tied up, fighting the plague, no one lifted a finger to salvage the place. It's been a year now, and living in a place the region had forgotten has its perks. Oh dear. I think we have read that actually, now I think about it. Okay, oh god, we've got so much to read. Oh my god, we've literally got so much to read. Okay then, the Greaves Whalehouse. Excerpt from a book on well-established companies in Dunwall. In the early days when the ships brought in the great dead whales, men would slaughter them and reduce their blubber to oil in massive vats on the banks of the Wren Haven. Small crews maintained their own vats with workers specialising as fire tenders, slicers, gutmen, haulers or strainers. Inevitably, once the demand went up, the businessmen moved in, wooing the best crews with promises of better pay and safer conditions. The Wren houses built up to the edges of the Rudshaw financial district almost overnight. None were more organised, or as some would say, more ruthless than the Greaves Whale House, opened by Ebenezer Greaves himself. The Greaves Whale House grew rapidly, distributing rivals until its dominated the trade. At its peak, the operation employed over 300 workers, not including the children, who filled minor and often tragic roles. These associated with the refinery were recognised by their head-to-toe industry leather uniforms and the masks they were to use to protect against fumes. So that explains where they used to wear them. Refinery images. I think, yeah, we've had that. Okay, so Martha's Journal. Have we had that before? The whalers created great numbers last night. We saw Randolph. We heard all sounds, but half of the men fell before we could scatter. No one says that they weren't whalers at all, but cultists. Yeah, I'll read this one then. Martha's Journal. Excerpt from a worn journal. The whalers came in greater numbers last night. We ran as soon as we heard the odd sounds they make, but half of our men fell before we could scatter. Lorien says they aren't whalers at all, but cultists hiding their face beneath masks from the old oil processing factories. We should have moved out when they first started skulking around. They're after the old Chamber of Commerce building for the same reasons we settled here. It's secure, fairly dry, and there's a tunnel beneath leading straight to Rudshaw Gate. I have read that then. Have I read this one? Yeah, we've had that before. Dowslog, I think we've read that. No, we haven't. The latest log entry. 18 years on this wretched wreck in this city of filth. I have felt the blood of scholars, of noble penitent paedophiles, oh dear, of guildsmen, of unfaithful lovers, of politicians who were far too just for their own good, and of law enforcers who came too close to beginning the wrong man to justice. Why should an emperor speak any different? Why should I feel the entire weight of this dying city crushing down on my back? Corvo, Lord Protector, is of Sarkonis, just as I once was. I might have known that fact already, but it didn't matter until I recognised it in his face. It brought back distant memories of home, and the optimistic young man I once was. What would I find if I went back there? Would I find that it'd be rotted from the inside just like Dunwall? Or would it be only appear that way because I am the one who's rotten? Interesting. The Royal Protector. Excerpt from a historical record of government positions and ranks. I wonder if it's the same as the Royal Spymaster. Throughout the years, rulers have always fared attempts on their lives. Once in a generation, the empire is raked by the death of a powerful political or religious figure. As such, city-states across the Isles have devised varying strategies for protecting their leaders. In the capital city of Dunwall, each new emperor is allowed to appoint a royal protector. This is far more than a twisted bodyguard, much more revered than the hand-chosen guard defending Dunwall Tower, or the food tasters. The royal protector is a court figure given enormous latitude who keeps constant companion with the highest ruler in the known world. At the age of 12, the young monarch participated in the selection process, making the final decision about who will safeguard his or her life. While most of these children as royal protectors have been men, several times throughout history a woman has served within the role. Well in the role, sorry. That's really cool. It makes you wonder, because it makes you wonder if, yeah, she must have done. Not Emily Coldwin, what's her name? Jasmine Coldwin chose one at such a young age, because they did say in that book that we've read today that they weren't going to be the royal protectors. They weren't going to be the emperors and stuff because they're distant cousins or something. So it makes you wonder if she was 12 at the time when that happened. So I know her father was an empress before her, so I'd imagine she was probably about 12. So she would have had to go through this process and picked Corvo, which is interesting to think about. For the first time in Dunwall's history, a monarch has been slain by her own bodyguard at the time of this writing. With Dunwall in the grip of the worst plague. Oh no, my hair's in plaits. Plague ever recorded. Our fair Empress Jasmine Coldwin has been murdered. The deed was done by her former royal protector turned assassin, Corvo Attano, who is still sitting in Colditch prison awaiting his deserved execution. Some argue that it is worth noting that Corvo Attano is the first royal protector in the history of the Empire born outside of the Isle of Crystal. Oh dear. Right, 3 more I guess then. The Rudshaw Chamber of Commerce. Excerpt from a book conveying the various districts across Dunwall and their histories. Once the financial heart of the Empire, the Rudshaw Financial District was a hive of trade activity. District. I'm trying to think. What does that mean? No district employed more barristers, accountants, or indeed more security, and no port of Dunwall saw a greater flow of coin. When the flood barriers broke and the waters rolled in, the looting that followed was accompanied by an epic period of chaos and butchery. Those who could withdraw and move their assets did what they could. Others, with their wealth tied to the grand mansions and artwork, lost it all. When the last of the high society set had withdrawn from the lights went dark, Rudshaw was a gloomy, crumbling shell of what it had been, inhabited by thieves, wild dogs and rats. A once great process of commerce sat empty and haunted, or come to house killers and mercenaries, as well as anyone else looking to hide from the city watch. In mere months the flooded district was settled upon as the most proper name for the place. The eradication of Black Sally. Whoa, Black Sally, bang-a-rang. Whoa, Black Sally, bang-a-rang. Black Sally had a baby, bang-a-rang. It's a song. It's not actually Black Sally, it's Black Betty, I think it is. Excerpt from a popular story of crime and daring by Jules Robin and the City Watch. Before Slackjaw ran the streets of the distillery district, there was no boss more ruthless, violent, or dedicated to squeezing the average citizen for coin than Black Sally. Like so many from Morley, she was pale-skinned and green-eyed, with hair as black as the void. They say that she started young, and as a girl she'd slain a man with her looks, coming upon him in an alley, then smile a one-sided smile and suddenly run him through with a knife. She'd have his money and be on her way before he breathed his final breath. As a boss, she was the worst, ruling over the meanest street gang Dunwall had seen up to that time. Her operation touched everything from shipping to prostitution. She even had a rocket going with the Bakers Guild. She even had a racket going with the Bakers Guild. A finger in every pie, indeed. The man-watch Captain Jules Robin made it his mission to stop her and keep the case going for half a decade. Black Sally met her end when Robin and his men light smoke fires in barrels near the warehouse where she hid out during the day. As she and her gang rushed into the streets, terrified, the building was burned. Captain Robin and his top officers threw nets over them and ran them through with the blade and pistol shot. Spirit of the Deep. Spirit of the Deep, Siren of the Dreams. I walked for hours along the coast, leaving Dunwall behind me until the lament of the waves, a dream drowned all other feeling. I wept, knowing you would not come to me, my love. You rule my dreams where I behold with senses I do not possess in walking life. The dark splendour of your name in the home in the deep. There the ocean rests on your back like a sleeping child on his father's shoulders. Is there sleepless nights of despair? You appear to me not as the mighty Leviathan, but as a young man with eyes as black as the void. Ooh, it's interesting. Right, have we got any written notes? I don't think we do. I tried to read the written notes now. That's the Ferg. A word of advice, you agreed a little treasure hunting trip to the float district if you can find yourself. I think we've read all those. No. Campbell's Curse we haven't read. Is that written down on my list? It is not. What are we on with this video, boys? This video's 23 minutes long. Can I read this last one? Let's read this last one. Oh, no, I'm going wrong the way. Campbell's Curse. No! Wrong buttons. There's buttons everywhere. Right, Campbell's Curse. It's quite a long one. Okay, let's do this then. So this is from Campbell, remember? Curse that fool, Hiram Barrows, Lord Regent, my lily white bottom. We almost had it all. Now I will wear the heretic's brand for the short remainder of my days, the heretic's brand of all things. I should have burned the ritual, but in truth I plan to use it against a few undesirables should the need arise, perhaps even Hiram. Now it's all lost. When I spy my own reflection in a puddle of filthy water, I see failure burned into my face. I am cast out. And now the plague is upon me. Already the fever grows and my thoughts are as slippery as bay fish. It won't be long before I am drooling and moaning and bleeding from the eyes. Last week I was slipping from fine Tyvian wines and enjoying the comforts rightly afforded to my position within the abbey. Today I sleep in filth, lost in this bleak and destroyed district. If my mind is going to rot away, then let this be my last words and final coherent thoughts of Thaddeus Campbell, a great man, a voracious lover of life and all its flavours and odours, and once High Overseer in the great capital city of Dunwall itself. From the blackness of the void I fling curses upon the head of Corva Ratano. It was he who cost me everything I hold dear. May flies host in his eyes, Corvo, and may all your desires come to ruin as you have ruined mine. Thaddeus Campbell. And that is all the books I think I've read. There might be a few little things here that I need to read, but I'll have a look in a second and let you know next time. But that is it. I'll see you in the next adventure. We're going to go and try and work my way through this Walker-infested, it's not Walking Dead, tall boy-infested, plague-ridden city. I'll see you next adventure, guys.